up every last Saturday of the month on trending political and governance issues in the sub-region. Citizens Hour on West Africa Democracy Radio. It's your time to speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Your current affairs program, Citizens Hour, is now more inclusive, more educative, and brings you a broader perspective on political and governance matters. This quarter on Citizens Hour, we spotlight issues on democracy, civic education, women and youth participation in governance, and other policy issues. Every Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. and a repeat broadcast at 6 p.m. on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar. Also, don't miss our special monthly debate, which comes up every last Saturday of the month on trending political and governance issues in the sub-region. Citizens Hour on West Africa Democracy Radio. It's your time to speak.
Hello there, and thank you for joining us on this edition of Citizens Hour, your democratic citizens engaging and current affairs radio program. We are coming to you live from West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM in Dakar. We're also streaming live on WADR.org, YouTube, and Facebook at WADR English. Citizens Hour comes to you live every Saturday at 10:30 a.m., bringing you more engaging conversation. I am Imo Edet, and I do thank you for finding time to join us this Saturday morning as we look at conversations that centers on accountability, justice, democracy, and voices of the ordinary people. Now, today's edition, we are shifting our attention to Benin, which has entered a new chapter in its political and constitutional history with the introduction of a bicameral parliament, bringing together the National Assembly and a newly created Senate. Now, supporters of the reform say the second chamber could strengthen legislative scrutiny, improve representation, and provide additional checks and balances. However, critics are asking important questions. How independent will the Senate be? Will it deepen democratic accountability or create another layer of political power? And what could the reform mean for the future of governance in Benin and potentially across West Africa? And for our second topic, Ghana is in the news as it considers a significant change to its political system, extending the presidential term from current 4 years to 5 years. Now, the proposal initially recommended by the Constitutional Review Committee is being justified on grounds that 4 years may not be enough time for government to fully implement their policies and development program. But the government has now accepted the recommendation as part of a broader constitutional reform process. But the proposal has also raised important questions about democratic accountability. Would an additional year give government the stability and the time needed to deliver on their promises, or would it reduce the frequency with which voters can hold elected leaders accountable? Well, stay with us for all of this and more.
Citizens Hour on West Africa Democracy Radio. It's your time to speak.
All right, welcome back. Let's bring on board our guests for our first topic from Benin, and we're glad to have two friends of the house joining us on this edition of the program, both of them in Benin, and I'm glad when we call on them, they are always on ground to be there. We have Gafudu Sagboho, a political analyst that has been following the political development there in Benin, and we have Morgan Ashogba Metoji, an expert in geopolitics. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here.
Indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Morgan, welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody.
Indeed. I like the Benin flag behind you. Thank you so much for representing. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So I would like to start with you, Mr. Morgan. Uh,
Thank
we've asked
you
these
very much.
questions. Uh, why does Benin need a Senate?
That's a very good question. And if I should say that I'm able to give you the right answer, I might be playing some kind of magic tricks. But you know that in every system, you have people who are in charge of looking into the vision and determining what is necessary for the civilization to move forward. I think Benin has this group of people who are, let's just say, spearheading the development and the democratical development of Benin, who at a certain level thought clearly that it is something necessary.
Mm.
But in terms of demonstrating the usefulness and the relevance of the institution, I believe we will have to wait and observe the first decision that might come out of that very institution. But it is very important here to highlight the fact that this is not a Senate as it is, let's say, common
Mm.
within every single democratic system. This is a Senate that is not elected. So this is a Senate that is designated. People have been chosen. Some of them have been entitled to become senators because of their services that they rendered to the country. We call them people who are legally, let's say, designed to be senators. But we also have people who have been chosen
Mm.
through a, let's say, process by the president due to some specificities that have been settled by the decree of the president. So we are facing here a new development, not just for Benin, but whatever should be considered as democratic world.
Mm.
How do we handle an institution that is supposed to be part of the parliament?
Yeah.
Because if you listen to all the MPs, when they are looking at these institutions, they strongly believe that it is an institution that has a parliamentary role, which is very new because any institution with parliamentary role is supposed to be elected.
Mm.
So we are experiencing something new, and the relevance of that institution will definitely, let's say, be clarified in the years to come or the months to
Indeed.
come. But for now,
Yeah.
this is a new dynamic
Mm.
that has emerged from thoughts of key people.
Well, it is indeed interesting because you talked about these set of people not elected, and they include former presidents, former ministers, top shot in Benin. Gafrud, I would like to come to you. What problem really with this bicameral legislature solve in the years to come?
If you could allow me to just opine on what my elder brother, Mr.
Please
Soba,
go ahead.
just on the nature of the Senate has not been elected. Uh, Remember, there was this comment from a former president of the Constitutional Court that mentioned that in 1990 and 1991, when they were setting up, Benin was coming to democracy and they were drafting the constitution of this country, there was something that was actually planned that they called the Council of Advisors. This council is supposed to be made up of elders and other important key people in the country. So I understand that our Senate don't even know why they did not keep the name of council and they decided to call it Senate. But so based on that, we understand why this Senate is not elected. The senators were not elected and they were actually chosen. So actually, I think it's based on what was discussed and what agrees upon in 1990 when Benin was really coming into democracy. So now what problem will that solve? Technically speaking, I think is going to solve many. The the current MPs or the MPs we usually have. I mean, we have everybody. We have traders. We have. They are not always
Elected
purely
people.
politicians.
Mm.
They are elected, but they come from different backgrounds.
Yes.
They are not purely intellectual, and I think they usually pass laws that are not very well scrutinized. They make decisions that are not scrutinized, and this we need this Senate to scrutinize any decision or any law that is passed by the MPs before being implemented by the executive. So this is it solved the issue of laws being passed that probably will not benefit the population and may not benefit the country as a whole. And thanks to the role that this Senate is going to play, we're going to have more or less fair laws passed and the decisions made. On the executive side, we also, everything is going to be regulated. But my fear is that, yes, are they really going to be free? The decision they are going to make or the advice they are going to give, will it actually benefit the country?
And do you also think it will slow down development? Don't you think so?
Well, it's actually very important to mention that because when 2016, when President Talon came in, there was this process of getting, especially for loans and many other things, the parliament had to examine the law, everything before it's passed before. But there are some steps that have been skipped, and these really help to accelerate things and do things well. But this is like adding another layer of the process. Maybe we're going to be experimenting a very huge, heavy process that may delay development or implementation of some important key actions, as you mentioned. But like my other brother said, we're just going to wait and see because it's not quite clear yet how it's going to be.
Well, Mr. Morgan, Gafuda talked about checks and balances and that the new Senate will be able to oversee some of the policies by this MPs. Do you really think it will bring that meaningful oversight as expected by the people, not just for those that were filled in that position of the Senate, the former president, the former governors? I mean, the people that at the end of the day, these policies are meant for. Mr. Morgan, this is for you.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. It is obvious that when you look at the institution playing that role, if it is purely, let's say, an administrative role, it is very acceptable. But when you look at the responsibilities that are being given to the Senate, it is a responsibility that usually in a democratic system are given to people that are elected. And the institution is legally, let's say, enforced, which is the best thing that we could have. But in terms of legitimacy of the institution, they might have some challenges when the decision will not go in line with probably the expectation maybe of the people or the expectation of the parliamentary, because the institution is having very key interesting responsibilities. So what is interesting here is to figure out what will happen in practicing the responsibilities of the institution, especially when there will be a conflictual situation between what decision will emanate from the institution and what will be the aspiration of the parliamentaries. But currently, when you look at the environment and the atmosphere, everything is perfect. There is no situation that seems to be bringing a conflictual development from the Senate or the Parliament. but in the case, I'm talking about the future, in the case that we will have this kind of situation, what will clearly happen is something that will allow us to appreciate in depth the usefulness and the effectiveness of the Senate. But as it stands today, it is a new development. The institution appears to be relevant according to the constitution and the aspiration of the country. And in terms of effectiveness and efficiency, this is a different dynamic, because when you look
Mr.
at the
Morgan,
pure or
Mr.
the main
Morgan.
role of the institution.
Yeah, please, can you make us understand who
Yes.
do these senators will ultimately answer to? The people, the presidency, the executive, who are they answerable to?
Currently, they are according to the constitution, they will be answering to the nation. And that is the challenge of the situation, because the nation, in terms of democratical process, did not, let's say, mandate them. They have not been mandated by the nation to play the role. They have been mandated, according to what we are seeing, by the government to play the role. So it is a very, I'm not going to call it tricky situation, but it is a new situation, and everybody is just waiting to see what will happen, because they are supposed to answer to the nation according to the constitution, but in a practical way, the nation did not mandate them through the democratical process. So this is one of the challenges that we might be facing.
Well, Gafudu, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, who are they answerable to? Let's look at the issue. For example, Nigeria, where you have the lower parliament, known as the House of Representatives, and the higher chambers, the red chambers, known as the Senate, which you have now in Benin. Now, usually, these two will have to agree on a policy and then send this bill, this proposed bill, to the presidency for assent to sign, and then that makes it a law. In this case, what happens in Benin? If the MPs pass a policy and then needs to be checked by the Senate, who now gives the nod for the final activation of this policy? Gafudu, this is for you.
Well, actually, to be honest, we have to be very, this based on the way they were assigned or chosen. Those are clearly political positions, and it's very clear. When we leave, we put aside what the Constitution says and everything. In practice, they're going to be answering to the government, to the executive, because first the executive chose them. Well, of course, the executive said we did it based on the Constitution, but it's based on the will of the executive. So I think in practice, and considering the context, I think that, and who is paying their salaries? Not the parliament. So, and they have bills to fill. They have those others diseases to treat. So those bills are there. So I think that, well, this was a joke. Well, I think they'll be answering more to the executive than to the people and to the parliament. I mean, to the lower chamber.
Well, Mr. Morgan, talking about the cost, which Gafudu has just mentioned, can Benin at this point afford to run that particular second institution?
This is one of the criticism that we've been having as far as the institution is concerned by some of the people in the country. Some of them are looking at the fact that this institution will be taking a lot of financial, let's say, provision. And this is a concern for the people. The people are wondering if it is necessary to engage in this. And that is why I am strictly being focused on the usefulness of the institution that they will have to demonstrate in the coming years. And this is a very difficult, let's say, situation. Gafudu said it in terms of an objective analysis. in a practical way, they will be answering to the government. But in an objective manner, they are not supposed to be answering to the government. They are supposed to be answering to the people, because the people's way is not always the government's way. And this chamber, this Senate, is definitely considered as the high chamber in a parliamentary institution. When you listen to the MPs, when they are being interviewed about the Senate, they considered it as the high chamber that plays a key role in the process of billing and passing those bills. So we are facing a new development, and in a very scientific way, it is difficult to appreciate right now the usefulness, the effectiveness, and the let's say the relevance of the institution. If we have to be objective, taking into consideration where Benin stands now, we might end up saying that it is not an institution that is highly demanded for the functioning of the nation, because we have a parliament that seems to function so far very well.
Mr. Morgan.
But surprisingly,
yes.
it seems like this.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Surprisingly, it seems like this institution appears to be very relevant for the parliament currently. And some critics are pointing out the fact that so the parliament has been facing challenges and probably has not been doing the job as it's supposed to be done. And these are developments that are now being taken into consideration as far as this institution, this new institution, is concerned.
Well, let me say with you, Mr. Morgan, 25 members in this new Senate, and that consists of the immediate past President Patrice Talon, Thomas Boniyayi, and Nisfer Soglo, alongside other former ministers, Ministers Alassane Seydou, Fortunate Alan Newton, Pascal Irene Kupagi, and the rest of them. Government officials all make up this Senate. What does this say about true representation of the people? And would you say this is like a retirement home for these past leaders?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan, respond first before Gafudu.
Gafudu said it all. The thing is that if you want to be objective, you cannot say that there is any effective and clear representation of the nation right there. Indirectly, if you look at the role they have occupied through their activeness at the service of the nation, we might say that they have served the nation and they are supposed to be considered as wise men of the nation. But in terms of democratic ways, they are not representing the nation. Objectively speaking, they are part of these people who have conducted the businesses of the nation. At the same time, the reason why we are where we are and the reason why we had those challenges that we had. So people who will develop the idea that this is a retirement, process, they might be, they are making sense in a practical way. But there is a very sensitive things here. And I think as with their status of wise men, they might understand this. In fact, I trust that they do understand that expectation will be high and that the people will not hesitate to be highly demanding on their behavior or on the decision that they will be making. As long as they are prepared for that, we will just wait and see how things will unfold.
Gafudu, over to you.
Well, yes, this is obviously a retirement home, because I think if there is any role, they could have played those roles without even being at the Senate. I mean, in Africa, we have this culture of consulting elders, and it has always been like that. So the role they are being assigned to play at the Senate could actually have been played without creating an institution like. That's why initially they called it a council. a council of elders or something in 1990. So now creating an institution or institutionalizing this as yes, in the minds of people. It's like this is an additional budget and not a small one anyway, because there's going to be like huge salaries and huge cost on the budget. The government might say, yes, we have removed the electoral commission. There's no more electoral commission. This, in terms of budget, this can probably balance things up. But still, we're talking here about the Senate. So this has nothing to do with the Electoral Commission in terms of costs, in terms of expenses.
Gafridu, well, let me just also add, in terms of costs which you're talking about, don't you think this is a double payment for this set of individuals, aside their retirement benefits, lifelong benefits as presidents, lifelong benefits as justice ministers, and then they're still getting paid again as being a member of that Senate? Don't you see this as double payment?
Yeah, somehow we cannot deny it. It's quite obvious that it's true that when President Talon came, there are some benefits that he removed, like water, electricity bills to some of those former presidents and other bills. But still, those bills are coming back as senators. They still have to create those bills. So it's obviously a double payment, and it's on the taxpayers' back. This has to be paid by taxpayers. So this way is very, very challenging. I don't know how the government that has come as a government that wants really to meet the needs of the people, that's aware of the challenges the people are going through, and they want to be able to resolve those social issues, want to be able, I don't know how they're really going to raise extra funds or resources to meet up those needs, but we just wait and see.
Well, Mr. Morgan, there seems to have been some form of quietness between those in the ruling party and the opposition because of this creation of this Senate. Do we still have opposing voices even with this, bringing in opposition president, bringing in ruling president, past leaders of opposite sides into one body? Would there still be an opposition voice in Benin?
Without even the existence of this institution, the question you are asking stands. When you look at the institution, is a very sophisticated political tool, and that has been displayed. Politically speaking, it is. Let's say that it is a genuine institution. The challenge is socially speaking. And democratically speaking, also, it meets some key administrative features, but in terms of the essence of democracy, which is making sure that people of parliamentary institution, it lacks something relevant. So yes, it's a very strong political tool that aim at making sure that all the parties are somehow satisfied. When you look at the practical attitude of the main opposition to the presidential election, he retired from his political party, and for the people to realize that he is one of the members that has been designated to be part of the Senate. Some citizens see through this process a way of giving the floor to him, or of saying thank you, is a way of expressing gratitude. Is this something that should be entertained? We don't know, but it is something that could make sense in terms of political observation. So yes, opposing voices will still stand and emerge as things goes on, as things move on. And we might even say that probably the opposing voices are even currently within the parliament. They are just waiting to be triggered. As soon as the leadership will not go in the direction that they want, they will come out. So we've seen what happened in Senegal, and what is, we have now two pastors We have two patriot political parties. One is Patriot Republican, and one is through the past step that we know. So there is no need of being afraid of the opposing voices that will emerge, even though currently they are all aligned.
Gafford, what's your thought on this?
Well, actually, I think everyone is just on observation because it's too early to say anything now, even if there are any opposing voices. Everybody's up. But also remember that political activities have somehow frozen, and if something has to be said, it has to be like constructive, as they said. So, and if there's nothing constructive to say for now, just keep quiet, observe and watch until maybe the right time comes for everyone to really speak out.
Well, Gafford, do you think this is the type of democracy former President Patrice Talon mentioned or referred to towards the last part of his stay as president, that the democracy practiced in Benin is different from what is practiced elsewhere? Is this that democracy he was referring to?
Absolutely, because he was very clear about that, and no doubt that what is happening today goes in the sense of really first consolidating what he has done for the last 10 years and also building the future. And it's not just Benin. I mean, like in almost all the continents, democracy is being like reshaped and contextualized. And this, our democracy, we cannot really compare to what the initial definition of democracy. This is something that's been done for the benefit of the country. It's very important. I think that's what President Talon was referring to. For the benefit of the country, there are things that need to be changed. Democracy has to be contextualized, and this is what is being done right now.
Well, what do you think could be the lessons for other West African countries from this situation in Benin, Gafudu?
Well, the lesson for other West African countries is that it's true, democracy, we know the way it is. And it's very important that, of course, without, like, we know the former way of coming to power, this has to be preserved. But every country should really work for the benefit of the country and adapt the democracy based on the needs of the country. I think that's what the big lesson that should be learned, because Benin is showing the way. Yes, we started in 1990, but we are now making the change today. And I don't think that there's anything abnormal about it.
Mr. Morgan, is this model adoptable by other West African countries?
Of course, but before we get there, they will have to observe and see how far the model is being constructive. If by model you mean the Senate that we have, they still have to wait and see. We've been witnessing what even Senegal has experienced. Today, there is no more institution called Senate in Senegal. So I believe if this has to be duplicated, it will depend on how well the institution works and brings value added to our democracy. But when by model you are referring to what has happened in terms of development in Benin, I think the answer is already all over the world, and especially the West African region. We have states that are trying to let's say, learn from the development that Benin has instigated. And this is what we objectively want, to see the people, let's say, benefit from the development and all the process.
Indeed. Well, let me cross over to Gafudu. After 7 years for this particular Senate, what do you think will happen?
What we think will happen is well, you know, we are in politics. Anything can happen even before 7 years. The president, anyway, the country may decide again to review the constitution and say, okay, this Senate is not going to be anymore. So It could also happen after 7 years. But the members might be renewed after 7 years if those that are still, I mean, all of them are still have the chance, the opportunity to be alive. They'll probably be renewed. Maybe not all of them. Former presidents and other institutions might remain, but those that have been designated may be renewed by the government or by the lower chamber. But one thing is sure, this is politics. We cannot be 100% sure that this institution is going to remain forever, depending on the future political games that will come.
Gaffer, there was also the fear that this Senate may, of some sort, be influenced by the executive. Because they were nominated by this set of executive into that position, and as a result, and also being answerable to them. Do you think that influence will be there?
It will be there. It's not just the executive, but I think on the ground we still have the influence of the former president, Patrice Talon, that somehow would influence the executive, and the executive in his turn will influence the Senate. So, it's very tricky what is happening. And the only thing we have to do is just wait and see. So, but the truth is that there'll be influential powers behind working to really make the Senate make decisions that they themselves, they might not make if they have their own freedom.
Mr. Morgan, are the people really and truly happy about this development?
We will have to go and conduct a survey to get you the right answer for this. But when you when you observe the different reaction, when it comes from people who are considered as being very highly intellectual and who are in the system, they believe this is a very relevant institution when you watch the TV. And when you look at people who are interviewed, if they are not people of that level who are citizens, they question somehow the effectiveness of the institution. So it is a very mixed feeling of the people, depending on where they are looking at it from. Some are looking at it from the budget level. Some are looking at it from a different other aspect. So we have a very mixed feeling today about the institution.
Well, Gafudo, let me come to you. I mean, you have spoken more with people as a result of what you do. What are they really saying on the street? I know that dissent voices are being tamed by the government. People are not really allowed to speak out or show some form of concern about this recent political development. But what are they really saying on the street? Some of those people you have spoken to, and what are their true expectations, especially with these two houses we're talking about?
Yeah, to be honest, the masses are not even, they're not even really, they don't really care much about that. They don't even know what is happening at the political level. The masses, the people in our neighborhood, the people in our houses, the people in our markets, it's really, they care more about really how to, I wouldn't say to survive, but how to meet their needs and really how to cope with the daily life. But when we come to the intellectual people, yes, still many of them, to be honest, they are still like on this cost side, this budget side, because this is the major points of talks with people of certain classes. So only politicians, which is their job, will really have try to be rational in the way they make their points, also trying to show the relevance of the institution. But again, in general, I think that people feel like the lower chamber will lose its power, and the country is going mostly to be.
When you talk about the lower chamber, you're referring to that of the elected MPs.
Exactly, that of the elected MPs. They will lose somehow their power. Things may happen, but the real thing, the real game, the policies and decisions will be made between the higher chamber, the Senate,
But
and the
how do you
executive.
mean they will lose their relevance or power? I mean, these are the people elected by the people we are talking about here. If, I mean, their activities will be checked, they'll only be done by the new Senate.
Yeah, they lose their power because at least they had, formerly they had at least this influence of like, okay, I mean, when the law gets their own level, it goes straight to the president to be passed or to be implemented. But there is hard now to go through another layer of checking, and that layer has the power that will decide whether what the lower chamber decided will be implemented or not. We're not even talking about recommendations that the higher chamber is going to make. No, it's really like, okay, see, what you decided here or what you passed here is not going to work. And that's what I actually mean by the lower chamber is going to lose most of its power. And wow. But still, we're going to wait and see how.
Mr. Morgan, do you agree with Gafudu that the powers of the MP elected by the people at this point will not be important anymore?
Well, when it comes to the relevance, I don't think the relevance is at stake. But what is at stake is definitely the effectiveness of that power. And that is why, from the very beginning, I was saying that we are witnessing something that is unheard of in terms of practical aspect. You know, we are referring to it, even in this discussion, we are referring to the Senate as the higher chamber and to the parliament as the lower chamber. When you are higher than something, it means you are higher than it. It means you stay in the position of, let's say,
and that's not fair for the people, Mr. Morgan.
Affecting the relevance of. Definitely, in a democratic environment, it is not fair for the people. But we are having here an institutional. We have the constitution. It's very tricky because the constitution emanates from the people, at least from the MPs, and the MPs are representing the people. And it seems like the people have accepted to create a higher chamber that does not emanate directly from them. So we are in a very, let's say, I'm not going to say difficult, but different form of situation that we cannot really appreciate the relevance of the quality of it. We need to wait and see, because they will definitely face situations, and those situations will only emerge through the process of exercising the power, because the dynamic, the political atmosphere that we have today is not going to be the same forever. We have 7 years ahead, and political environment are extremely dynamic. Things change, vision change, people even choose different aspiration. And it is effectively when we will witness this kind of situation that we will see if the institution can stand. That is why I have no issue with Gafudu when he says that we might even witness the MPs coming together and decide to change the institution. They will just wake up one day and we'll see that, oh, they have passed a new bill that say that the Senate is no more useful to the nation. So everything is possible politically speaking, but socially speaking, we are facing with a situation that is not appearing very constructive so far.
Indeed. Well, as we round off this conversation, I mean, it's been very interesting having you both. Gafudo, let's have your last thought on this. What are some of the likely first set of policies you think this two houses will push out in the coming days?
I think in the coming days, they'll be looking at how to improve the the living condition of the people, but they'll also be looking at the sub-region situation, geopolitics. They'll be looking at some important investment and development works that the executive is going to be doing, and they are also going to be reshaping the political environment. It has been reshaped already, but there'll be more reshaping of it because there will be a lot of people moving from one side to the other. So they really have to work on that as well. Those, I think, are areas where policies are really going to focus on.
Indeed. Well, Mr. Morgan, 30 seconds. Your final thoughts on this. What are we looking, should be expecting in the coming days?
Well, we should be expecting new development. It is a wait and see situation. And politically speaking, the institution will be very active. But the challenge the institution will face in terms of politically activity is the dynamic nature of politics. People will definitely shift and the interest will also shift. So the institution will face some challenges because those who are there currently, yes, they have some influence politically speaking, but those influence are being somehow reduced in terms of effectiveness because there is a new political generation that seems to be established. Socially speaking, it will be very difficult to appreciate what the institution will do, but it is clear that the political vision is geared towards fighting extreme poverty. So there will be many bills and laws in line with these policies that are being set.
All right.
So it's a wait and see situation. We will observe and keep monitoring what is happening.
Indeed, we will do the same from this part here. Mr. Morgan David Asogba Mentoji, expert in geopolitics. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And Gafudu Sakbeho, political analyst there in Benin. We appreciate you and, of course, Mr. David for being part of this program. Thank you so much, and we will do this again.
Thank you.
Indeed. All right, if you're just joining us on radio or streaming on YouTube and Facebook, this is Citizens Hour, and we are coming to you live on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM in Dakar. We have been examining Benin's new Senate and the challenges ahead. Stay with us.
Citizens Hour is evolving as the WADR's partnership with NET continues. This April, your NET Democracy and Governance program is going to the Sahel. We will focus on Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and other West African countries, including Benin, Togo, Nigeria, and the Gambia. Bolder conversations, real voices, inclusive discussions. Let's talk democracy. Let's talk governance. Let's talk your truth. Citizens Are Season 2 in partnership with the National Endowment for Democracy, NET, on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar.
All right, welcome back to the program. In this second half of the show, we shift focus to Ghana, where the politics and democracy is getting more interesting by the day. Ghana is considering a significant change to its political system, extending the presidential term from the current 4 years to 5 years. The proposal, initially recommended by the Constitutional Review Committee, has been justified on the grounds that 4 years may not provide enough time for governments to fully implement their policies and development programs, and the government has now accepted the recommendations as part of a broader constitutional reform and a process. Well, let's get neck deep into this conversation as I bring on board our guest for this second segment. Well, our first guest you heard her earlier on the French language edition of the program, and she is here again with us, Marie Josenga, project coordinator for Francophone West Africa, WADR. Marie, thank you so much for finding time to join us. I'm sure we've taken your entire Saturday. Thank you so much for your time, Marie.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to
Indeed.
join you.
Indeed. And we're also joined by one of Ghana's leading political experts. He is Bernard Mona, a former PNC flag bearer, and he clearly understands the subject matter that we've brought forward today. Mr. Bernard, thank you so much for your time and welcome to the program.
It's a delight to be with you on this program.
Indeed. Well, let me start with you since you're here. I mean, this has generated mixed reactions. Some people are happy about it, and other people are saying that we may see some form of constitutional review in the coming days. Maybe perhaps to allow the incumbent president to contest, which may present a similar picture which we saw here in Senegal a couple of years ago. Let me start with you. You have been neck deep in governance. I mean, you have contested in the highest office. Do you think 4 years generally is too short for a government like the type of Ghana to deliver on its mandate?
Thank you, and let me say good morning. I hope so to my other panelists, and to state ab initio that the issue of term is not a first-time discussion in the Ghanaian political landscape. In pre-1992, there were those who proposed that they wanted 5 years, and another group proposed 4 years. The 5 years lost massively when the issue was taken to a referendum. Then subsequent, there was also an attempt by President Kufuor when he was about exiting office in 2008, 2007, 2008, when he brought the idea of 7 years non-renewable. That was also rejected massively. Then we moved when President Evans Atta Mills took over the presidency of this country in 2008. Between 2008, he set up what we call the Constitutional Review Commission. And the Constitutional Review Commission also re-emphasized that yes, there were proposals for 5 years, but the 4-year term limit was sufficient. Fast forward, there was the Justice Fiajo Committee, which also Constitutional Review Implementation Committee, which also then insisted that the 4 years was sufficient. They rejected the 5 years proposal. So when you look at commissions and referendums that have refused the idea of a change of the term from 4 years, you wonder the locus of a committee. The H. Prempe committee is subordinate to a commission and suddenly subordinate to a referendum. So when we hear that the government has accepted the proposal by a committee as opposed to the previous ones that were even commissions, it gives cause to worry. Now, the point many Ghanaians are having, including me, is that if 4 years is inadequate to cause change, 5 years cannot be sufficient. 5 years cannot be sufficient. Then we will move in towards 6. And when we get to 6, we will say 7. When we get to 7, we'll justify 8. And before we realize, we'll have a number that is indefinite. What John Mahama's second term in office has demonstrated is that 4 years is more than enough for a government or a leader to transform your country from a junk state to a status that is admirable by all. What President Ibrahim Traoré has done in Burkina Faso, without the support of the financial institutions of the world, within the shortest period, justifies that It is not how long you serve, but how well you serve. And so this proposition that we should have 4 years term is not supported by the evidence that are currently implemented. I am sure that you recall that inflation was around 54% in Ghana. Then we reducted it up to about 24, 25%. John Mahama took over and inflation is 3.5%. In less than 3 years, in less than 2 years, we have achieved this significant economic gain, whatever that represents. You do know that our currency was galloping at a faster rate, chasing the dollar. Today, our currency has been strengthened that it is able to stand its own against the dollar. You do know that reserves and others, you do know that there has been significant improvement in the government's architecture in Ghana within the past 18 months or so. That is not even 4 years. So when leaders are determined to execute their mandate, it is not about how long, it is about how well.
Indeed.
And we hold the strongest view that this constitutional review attempt is to hijack the process from the ordinary persons that were involved in the crafting of Ghana's constitution. You know that hairdressers, tailors, dressmakers, market women, tomato sellers, fishmongers were all part of the Constituent Assembly that promulgated the 1992 Constitution that we are implementing today. This attempt to review the Constitution of Ghana, have you seen any fishmonger there?
Well,
have you seen any carpenter there?
Let me hold your
So
thoughts
what
there.
they have done is to hijack the constitutional making process away from ordinary people into the realm of the academics and lawyers.
Mr. Bernard, we will come to that. But let me cross over to Mary and get her thought on this, especially from the civic space. Do you think a 5-year term can actually strengthen or it could weaken democratic accountability in looking at what Mr. Bernard has explained? Mary, this is for you.
Yes, thank you very much and good morning once again. It's an interesting debate, in a democracy. I think it's good to have such debates to actually question why we are doing what we are doing, right? And for me, the question of 4 or 5 years is not. It's not whether 5 years is better than 4 years. For me, the real question is whether extending the presidential term would improve governance, it will improve accountability and service delivery for Ghanaians. So there might be legitimate arguments in favor of that view. But of course, there are also democratic risks. So for me, therefore, a reform of such, impact cannot be viewed into isolation. So if Ghana moves to a 5-year presidential term, then we should also ask whether other democratic institutions should be strengthened, right? So constitutional reform should improve the overall governance system, not just alter the presidential calendar. So I also understand very well the points from my co-panelist, and it's actually a very interesting point he raised about the no evidence, before such a decision. So for me, the key is not really to speculate about the motives of the current evidence, the current government, because it's we of course we need evidence, but we cannot state that the reform is totally driven by political self-interest or something. So we should look at it for me in a more critical way. So that is for me, that's precisely why constitutional reform for me requires the highest level of transparency and public consultation. So whenever a government proposes changes that affects the rule of political competitions, then the citizens are naturally entitled to ask whether those reforms serve the national interest or the interest of those currently in power. So I think that the concerns are justified, and the concerns are also are very legitimate. So we in any democracy, Senegal and across West Africa, across Africa, citizens scrutinize constitutional reform very carefully. But the concern should be addressed through evidence, public debate, and constitutional procedure. So as I was saying, there are arguments in favor, or there are legitimate arguments in favor of the 5 years, but there are also democratic risk, because some of the arguments are that it will give government more time to implement their manifesto. You see, in Ghana here, when a government will come in place, the first year generally, you prepare the budget, you appoint the government.
Which was the argument of the attorney, the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General.
Exactly. And then the last year also, the 4th year, you start campaigning. You as a government, you are busy organizing your campaigns, and it's just mean that in between you just have 2 years to implement whatever you have to do. In case if we move to 5 years, yes, it will not make that big difference, but at least there will be more room for any high level of reform that is needed to be put in place. So at least this is an argument that is favorable to the 5-year terms, right? And also, if we look at the level of elections, such reform can potentially reduce the cost of frequent elections. I think last week or last 2 weeks we had this conference here in Ghana about political financing, and we observed that in Ghana and across Africa, it's a question that really needs to be looked at critically: the cost of elections and the cost of political activity. So in this case, we are looking at how this new measure, this reform can potentially, reduce the cost. So yes, many important reforms in infrastructure, education, or the economy take longer than 4 years to produce visible results. So maybe a 5-year mandate could provide greater policy continuity.
Indeed.
But in the other hand, there are also a lot of risk, because as my predecessor said, my co-panelist said, there's no guarantee that if you have done 4 years, then adding 1 year to your 4 years will change anything. So that one, it is established.
Well,
and there are also risks that, that at the level of the citizens, citizens will have to wait longer before they can even hold a government accountable through elections, checks and balances. And the government even may become less responsive if other accountability institutions are weak, if checks and balances are not strong.
Right.
Extending mandate can concentrate power. So I'm looking at it from that democratic perspective.
Okay, Marie, let me hold your thought there. We'll come back to that. Mr. Bernard, let's look at 2 points which you raised, and one of them, Marie also raised. First of all, earlier you talked about referendum. And then Mario also raised the case of what the defense minister mentioned. Let me just quickly read that out to our listeners and viewers. Now, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dominic Ayine, he said that the government has accepted the proposal from the Constitutional Review Committee. Now, which brings us to the case of referendum, which you talked about. And then the other reason was that the 4-year term is too short, which Maria mentioned. First year, you're trying to set up your government, you're trying to clear electoral dispute in court. And then the fourth year, you are trying to organize another election. You're running campaigns here and there. And as a matter of fact, you may even end up having only 1.5 years or thereabout to properly run the government. Let's first talk about the some of the pointers that the Attorney General mentioned, the fact that government will have more time. And then there's also the review of the age from 40 to 35. Your take on it, Mr. Bernard? Mr. Bernard, are you there? Please unmute. Please unmute.
Yeah. First and foremost, let me state that I subscribe to the issue of the review of the age downwards.
Okay.
Just that I don't subscribe to the 35 limit that they have brought in.
Is it too young?
I do. It's too far and too remote.
Okay.
See, the Constitution of Ghana permits that at the age of 18, you have attained the age of majority and you should participate in voting for people to lead you. What raison d'etre is there for one to say that if I can vote for people to lead me, people cannot vote for me to lead them? How do you justify that I am sane enough, I am rational enough, I am matured to take a decision to decide who can lead me? And after I have casted that decision, I cannot present myself to be a candidate. Then it gives you a 3-year lacuna that from 18 until you are 21, you cannot attain parliament. Then when you attain parliament at 21, you have to wait maybe for 19 extra years now to qualify and become competent to lead the nation as president. I think that there's some travesty of justice in there. And it tramples upon the rights of citizens who are qualified to vote, and yet they cannot be voted for. So I have been an advocate that if the Constitution of Ghana permits that somebody at the age of 18 is matured, is lucid enough to determine who can lead the person can also put himself or herself up for contest. So what is this limitation that some ones of us who think that, yes, we have gravitated towards an age should be given? Why is there a lower limit and there's no upper limit? Why? So the age review downwards is well with me, but I think it can go further down. For whatever reason, if we will not permit the person to contest for elections at 18, then we should permit them at the age of 21, when you are competent to go to parliament, you should also be competent to lead the nation. And let's see, there are more young people who are pragmatic, who think that they have more future if we will not want to take the lifespan of our Ghanaian society, then they will have more future to sit through their actions than those of us who are getting closer to our graves, who come to take over power. And then we decide to do the kind of thing that President Akufo-Addo did, run the nation reckless and run it amok, and devastate every institution, knowing very well that, after all, we are living in borrowed times. That is how I view the administration of President Akufo-Addo, that because he thinks that he had exceeded the lifespan that every Ghanaian will lead, he was living in borrowed time, and therefore he managed the economy as reckless as he wanted to. So we need to instill in ourselves that young people are not that daft, and that once you get a certain age, you should be able to contest elections. And I don't think that 35 is still enough a reduction for me. It should come down further. The issue about using first year to run, anybody that is running to become president to lead a nation, it's a serious business. It is not just to walk in the park. So when you are running for president, as you are taking a tour of the country, as you are selling your message, you should at the same time be identifying the people that will accompany you on the journey to manifest and to actualize the policies and programs that you want to bring. When you become president and you say that you need time now to go around to select people, it tells us that you were a joker when you were doing the presidential tour, because you met people, you interacted with them, you worked with them maybe more than a year before you became president. You know who is competent to occupy which position to help you actualize the vision for which you have for a nation. Do you need more than 2 months to be able to do that? And in the case of budget for Ghana, budget statements are prepared up to the first quarter. So in November, we present a budget statement that will be able to carry the nation to the end of the first quarter. When you are elected and you are sworn in on 7th December and your minister is chosen, I don't see how difficult it is to present a budget of your policies and your programs to the Parliament of Ghana for approval. These things should not be like we should be buying time. And that's why I'm saying that if we are buying time to say that we need 5 years, so that the first year we can go to bed, take our time, sleep, snore, and then choose who we want to. By the time we finish, we would have actually entered the second year without properly constituting a government.
Mr. Bernard, what if
Because
a
we
referendum
assume that
is brought forward? Do you think the people will support this idea of the government?
I am saying that this idea was refuted in 1992. The Fiajo Commission also decided that the 4-year was sufficient. By the way, we are talking about the United States of America Constitution that has run over 250 years. And they are dealing with 4 years. And in modern times that we are in, do we need longevity, or do we have introduced better and smarter way of doing things faster? If in our modern era, we are looking for long term in order to solve problems, then it means that the use of technology is of no consequence in modern governance. But if technology is playing a way in facilitating progress and at supersonic rate, then that means that even terms in office can be sped up because technology has come to do things. And I'm sure that there's wonders that AI is doing in recent times is such that we must want to move with the times and not allow the times to move with us.
Well, let me cross over to Barry. Mr. Bernard has raised a solid and valid point. But my concern is the referendum. Now that the government has accepted this wholeheartedly, are they going to shove this down the throat of the population to accept without conducting a referendum to know if it is what the people really want?
Yes, thank you. I think in all very important of constitution, especially what has an impact on the political competition. It's very important to gather the views of the people, of the citizens. So the case of the referendum, we should look at what the constitution says about such a change. Is it a change that require a referendum? Because we saw it. We saw what happened recently in Senegal when some changes were proposed by the president of parliament, and the president was thinking of a referendum, but the constitutional court had to decide. So we have to look at that side. Is a referendum necessary? And if the referendum is necessary or not, it just means that at some point we also have the key institutions, democratic institutions to play there. So whether we are talking about 4 to 5 years, or reducing the age from 40 to 35, there is a condition to all of it, because in order to guarantee or to make sure that all those reforms will provide stability or will reinforce democracy, then we need to also make sure that the institutions play their role and that the institutions are still independent. The constitutional courts, the electoral commissions, the media, and that help even citizens to be informed, to engage, and to be able to hold governments accountable and to share their voice and their opinions. So I think the idea of the referendum should be critically looked at through the provisions of the constitution. But let me also add my voice to the debate around the age. You know, for me, I strongly believe that the lowering the minimum age is really not the problem, right? But the problem is that reform going to reinforce democratic principles, inclusions, right? So if the lowering the minimum age is about expanding political participation, is it about expanding political participation rather than extending political power, right? So I see it as a reform that, you know, can promote inclusion. Ghana has a very young population, the same as in Africa. Many young people are educated, experienced, maybe they already lead businesses, public institutions, and civil society organizations. So it is legitimate to ask whether the constitution should allow them to compete for the highest office at an earlier age. So it's already a good approach. It's already a good progress. But it's also important to keep in mind that age is not the guarantee or the best measure of leadership, right? A person of 30 may have you know, the competency to lead with vision, while someone older may not. So ultimately, it is the electorate that should decide who is best qualified as long as minimum standards are met. And again, lowering the age requirement, you know, will not also automatically make politics more inclusive. We are talking about inclusions, but is it going to make the politics more inclusive? Because today, young candidates, they still face barriers, right? Such as campaign financing, access to opportunities. So those are things that also need to accompany the reform. There are some prerequisites.
Yeah.
So if the government says we want to reduce the age for presidential elections, so what is it that accompany it? What are the measures? So what are all the structural barriers also addressed? So if the objective is to encourage greater youth participation in politics, then reducing the age requirement is a positive signal. But as I said, it should be part of a broader agenda that, you know, genuinely open space, political space for young people, rather than, you know, just being kind of a symbol of, you know, good intention, good image. That's the point.
Well, Mr. Bernard, this particular issue that we're talking about here, term extension, why is it common among West African governments?
Well, you know, I just wanted to tease your brain on something. Who is chairman of the Republicans in the US? Or the general secretary of the Democrats? Or the national organizer? Or general, the youth organizer? Have you ever come across any? Maybe Marie will help me. When we are talking about expensiveness of democracy, I think we should also look at the composition of even the political party formation in Africa. Because every constituency is asked to bring what? A constituency chairman, constituency secretary, youth organizer, women's organizer, treasurer, and what have you. Don't you think that that is inimical? to the finances of any nation. Why are we not competent enough to allow the media, to allow the space to determine, for instance, a presidential candidate, who then will rally the people that will assist him or her to prosecute a campaign that will be acceptable by the citizens? But we have structured our democracy to make it too expensive and unaffordable. That is why Marie will be talking about the issue about inclusion, but young people, when you give them even the age, bring it to 21, the issue about inclusion will be financial exclusion. So that for me is the thing that I wanted to tease with you, so that possibly we can all do a research. I don't think that when you go to the Labour Party, there is a national chairman, there's a general secretary, there is all those things, and then you go down to counties and you have that. I may stand to be corrected.
Okay.
But I think that it is one of the crucibles that we can use to re-engineer the kind of politics and democratic expenditures that are pervading most African countries. And that is why the cost of elections is reaching astronomical levels for most African or West African countries.
And very expensive for the ordinary people to take part in.
Particularly. So the issue about term limits, see, I think a referendum is going to be carried and persuaded by the government that may have more resources to campaign on a certain platform. And if they choose to do a referendum within a certain shortness of time, with their resources, they may be able to carry the referendum through. That is not to suggest that it is popular. As I said, President Kufuor proposed a 7-year term. We knocked it down. I was one of the agitators of a 7-year period. And at that time, it was not done on me that we could have a president like Akufo-Addo, that at a certain point, it was like you have put water in your mouth that has become saliva. Akufo-Addo's leadership of this country was like you are containing saliva in your mouth. You want to spit. And that is how we faced, that is how we felt. So if we are not careful and our democracy provides for us the kind of leader that we had in 2020, hey, with a longer term, we are doomed.
Well, let me just quickly also throw this at you, Mr. Bernard. I mean, as
it's like I can hazard this. I'm sure you go to America today to say they should extend President Trump's term by another year, you may get a tsunami in that country.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, would you support this 5-year term if the same change applied equally to all future governments, regardless of which party is in power?
Well, once the constitutional processes are well engineered, like I said, it is an attempt to hijack the constitutional remaking process from the ordinary people that participated in the original constitution. Now, if you succeed in hijacking it for the elite and they bring in their views, what will happen is that subsequent governments will have to go through it. And see, let me tell you, I want to become president of this country. It will be in my interest that we should serve longer. I should be allowed more time. But I believe, and I insist, that we can do this country good, even if you give us 2 years. Anybody that is right-minded, anybody that wants to deliver results, we should be able to deliver that results as soon as we come to power. It is only weak leaders that think longer terms in order to actualize their vision.
Well, as we round off this conversation, Mario, I would like to throw one last question to you. Now that the minister and the government seems to have welcomed this development, what will be the next step into this? Are we going to just see an implementation of this in the next election? Or, as we are discussing here, perhaps a referendum could be in the offing?
Yeah, so from what I know, this suggestion came from the Constitutional Review Committee, and the Constitutional Review Committee ran some consultations all over the territory to get views and opinions from citizens, and they were now able to consolidate those views and opinions into a document that was submitted to the president. And the president right now the presidency has issued a position paper. And that is the position paper that actually goes in favor of the 4 to 5 years, but it's not really explicit, I think, on the age, because I think that the committee suggested 30 years, but the presidency came with 35. So there is this this idea or that school of thought that thinks that this process or the government or the presidency, issuing a position paper shouldn't have been done now. It should have been done firstly by them also gathering and collecting citizens' voices on those reforms, suggested by the committee before now issuing a position paper. And that's a legitimate concern. Yeah. But I think this government decided to go the other way around, right? So they will issue the position paper, and then they will now certainly appoint or bring another committee for the implementation of the Constitutional Committee review suggestions. So it means that other committee will now put all the mechanisms in place to that will allow maybe a referendum, or like all the mechanisms that will guide all the implementation processes of those reforms.
All right, Mary, we have to go.
Exactly.
But I do have one last question actually for Mr. Bernard, and this is coming from one of our viewers who just sent in the message, a Ghanaian here actually, and he's asking that you contested in the last election. Maybe in 30 seconds, tell us how expensive is it to run an election or contest in Ghana? Mr. Bernard, 30 seconds for you.
Well, I can tell you that it is a humongous expenditure that at Binishu I cannot give precise figures. But the cost of elections is not just about the material, the paraphernalia, and the campaign organizations. There are things that I tell people that if you doubt that in elections you are a Muslim, in elections you are a traditionalist, in elections you are a Christian, and there are members of the Christian fraternity who will come to you and tell you that if you don't see Pastor A, it means that you cannot win. And you have to go and see, and it's not cheap. They will tell you that if you don't see Malam or Imam, you cannot win. And they will tell you cannot go and win elections if you don't go to a certain shrine. And these are things that are not publicly said. But I am willing, because I think that leaders must be transparent about how we go about these things. And sometimes, even when you do not believe, the people in your campaign believe, and you must go with them. Otherwise, they will say that you are not determined to win, and they will fall out of for you. So these are some of the intricacies in our politics that may not be taught in political science classroom, but certainly they add to the cost of elections.
Indeed.
Elections in Ghana, minimum, you need more than 200 million in order to be able to contest properly in Ghana.
All right.
Otherwise, forget it. You are going to be a walkthrough.
This may even be a bottleneck for the younger generations who plan to be part of, governance in this instance, keeping over 200 million. That's a whole lot. And I hope that our listener has heard that in case he or she has a plan of running in any election in Ghana, he should keep that. Mr. Bernard, thank you so much for your time and your insight into the discussion. 5 seconds,
farming
please.
Is one of
5 seconds.
Farming is the option for us in Africa, and that is why you can see that I am on a farm with my farm beard.
Indeed. And keep on doing that. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you bringing in your wealth of experience into this discussion. Mari Josenga, thank you also for your time, being with us from the French language edition to the English language edition. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And you both do have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, that's the much we can take on this edition of Citizens Hour. Thank you so much for your time. And up next is the news with Augustine Coley. I am Imo Edet. Goodbye.
Citizens Hour on West Africa Democracy